Blog Talk Radio.
Well, good morning, or should I say good afternoon, everyone. It's actually a Friday, and it's my last show of the week. Yay! I just wanted to quickly do a couple announcements, since I know that Greg is holding, so we don't want to keep him too long. I want to remind everybody that, yes, this is probably the first time and probably the only time this will happen, but yes, I literally have a radio show every single day next week, Monday through Friday. Aren't you excited? You get to hear me 5 times next week. Want to remind everybody real quickly that Michelle Glazer is coming on the show at 1 o'clock Central Standard Time, which is a pet expert. I'm so excited. It's one of Dana Humphrey's clients. So anytime she has somebody come on the show, I'm always excited. And she's from New York, of course. So 1 o'clock Central Standard Time, Michelle Glazer comes on the show. Please check my show page for details, as well as my personal page and my website in terms of finding out who she is. 2 quickies relative to this coming weekend. Obviously, for New York City folks, I want to do these quick reminders because these are both friends of mine and people that need the support. So if anybody is listening in the New York City area, 2 different things happening. Obviously, tonight is the Dinner in Blanc, Long Island, which, of course, the 2 guests that were showcasing this event were on the show last week. And so just so you folks know, the event is this evening at 6 o'clock. However, if you go and you make a donation and support Dinner en Blanc in Long Island, and by the way, the website for that is longisland.dinnerandblanc.com, and that's spelled DINERENBLANC.com. If you go ahead and you make a donation there, what happens is that there's an event called Polo at the Park this coming Sunday at 3 o'clock. It's raised at 3 o'clock. Anybody who goes ahead and does the donation for the Dinner en Blanc will get a VIP code for this event on Sunday. So instead of it normally being $200 to attend, it's a whole $40. So there's a huge, huge benefit. So again, that's longisland.dinnerandblanc.com. Go ahead, check that site out, put the donation in, and then get your VIP code. More importantly, and secondarily, I should say, Couple of Guys fundraiser. We were talking about that yesterday. October 7th, Saturday, which is, of course, from 7 to 10 Eastern Standard Time. It's located at the New Bridge Inn, which is 2227 Jerusalem Avenue in Merrick, New York City. The ticket cost, whether you go online today, I believe you could still get it a bit cheaper online, but otherwise it's $10 at the door. Purpose of the fundraiser is, of course, one of my huge, I can't even stress how important it is to support the arts. This is another independent film done by director Deborah Markowitz. And so this is her latest project. It's called a film entitled Couple of Guys. And the couple of guys who are actually in the film are going to be there, along with Ciaran is going to be there, who used to play Phantom of the Opera. He'll be singing some songs. Deborah will be there, the cast, some of her former cast. It's going to be a great evening full of fun and laughter and dining and just getting together with great friends. So if you can manage it, or even if you want to go ahead and just donate itself, she has an actual place on her website itself where you can go ahead and just donate to the project. There's all sorts of different perks that you can get for actually being a part of the project. So either get to the New Bridge Inn on Saturday from 7 to 10. Otherwise, visit her website, intentionfilmsandmedia.com. Go to the section under news. You will find all the information about Couple of Guys fundraiser. Please do your best to support the independent films. I can't tell you how important it is to be a part of that. So I think that's all of our announcements. I'm not appearing anywhere this weekend, well, except with my beautiful children. And, of course, those that are going to the Pius reunion, I will be there at some point in time this weekend. So without further ado, let's get Greg on the line and start talking to him. I'm sure he's tired of listening to me talk. Good morning, Greg.
Hey, good morning, Cindy. How are you?
Well, you see, I'm quite rushed, actually. There's always this early morning sort of, let's not forget to mention all these events and talk about everybody. But now I want to talk about you because you're a very big deal. I like it when big deals come on my show. I say that because you're a very intelligent person. You're very smart. I've watched some of your lecturing or talking, and I've seen some of the things you've done, and I'm quite blown away, to be honest with you. I think it's highly impressive to have a person of your stature on my show because you have a lot to offer. So I appreciate you coming in today. Coming on the show, I should say. You're quite welcome.
Consider me flattered.
Well, that's a wonderful thing, considering you're a scientist. And all the scientists that I've met are typically I want to talk about that a little bit. You guys are all very serious looking. I think you're very staunch and very serious, and I'm sure you're a lovely person. But we all kind of have that persona of, you probably sit in a laboratory 24/7. You probably work with a lot of weird chemicals. Please tell me that none of this is true and you don't turn green either. Please tell me that's true.
You're not that far
off.
Not true. No, I
no!
think it's part of the job description is the personality that goes with it. Yeah, well, I don't know. Everyone kind of tends to their own thing. But,
you bet.
No, there's there's a wide variety of personalities and characters in our field, and it's every day's an adventure, that's for sure.
Oh my God, I imagine so, definitely. Now, when you started off on this journey, obviously, of course, I always find this fascinating to find out the backstory. If you wouldn't mind sharing with us how you eventually ended up wanting to become and working in this field, because I know you have a background, you have your PhD in mechanical engineering. So obviously this is something that's been important to you for some time. So when you decided to venture off into this particular world, what was so intriguing to you about this? I'm just curious because I'm a creative, so I totally don't get
I think, we're driven at a high level by what most people are driven in, and that's kind of wanting to make a contribution. That, the product that we now have on the market is something that's really helping people. It's impacting people's lives. It's kind of turning their dreams into reality, and that's, we're at a stage now in our company where that's incredibly rewarding for the work that we've gone through to get this thing out there. But my background is much more in the engineering and technology development. So before this company, I was a scientist, a government scientist at a national lab developing tools for more biodefense applications. So things like emergency preparedness scenarios that the government worries about, where if someone were to release a toxic substance into a mass population, how can we give tools to our first responders, the firefighters, the police officers to be able to diagnose and treat the people that need it and when time is of the essence. And so those are very challenging problems, and that was developing tools that could run on batteries, could be handheld and run pretty high performance clinical tests on things like a finger stick of blood in just a few minutes. And in developing that, so one of my co-founders and I, we worked there for about 5 years and recognized that, there was a lot of opportunities here to take that out of the national lab world and into the commercial world and consumer healthcare world, recognizing that, in a lot of ways, clinical testing today is pretty antiquated. For the vast majority of tests that you need to have done, you still have to go to a laboratory or a doctor's office, have your blood drawn, wait a few days, and that the ability to get immediate results and actionable results can, in a lot of ways, change the way that we think about and manage our own personal health care. And so that was really the driving force of, we can do this better than what's out there. Let's do it. And, the startup, the venture world is really the vehicle to do that, especially when you're at a national lab. National labs are not in the business of selling products. They're in the business of research and development, and rely on folks like us to take it out into the private world.
Sure, I like that. One of the things I was thinking about when I was researching this, I thought to myself, how do you handle, I imagine, because of course when you're talking about the clinical testing and trying to come up with something that's going to be not 100% error-proof, but as close as possible, obviously. Is there a high level of, I imagine this must be a very frustrating job at times, because you get so close to finding something or figuring something out, and then sometimes it just doesn't happen 100%. You know what I mean? I guess I find that somewhat fascinating, that challenge. I mean, is it challenging or is it crushing to some extent? Because I can't even imagine.
Well, it's both challenging and crushing. I mean, very few things are black and white, right? So 0 or 100. Right. There's a lot of gray area, especially when you're dealing with anything medical or biological. Things just, there's just so many influences and factors that affect it. And on the technology world, so my background is in a field called microfluidics, which is taking very small little devices and chips and using them to process nanoliters of biological substances, which brings a lot of advantages, but also a lot of challenges. And you'll see in our field that, things often work a few times at a bench scale. You write a paper and you promote it, and being able to actually turn that experiment into a product is few and far between. And so I think part of what drove us to do this was we had a technology that worked. It worked every time, and it worked great, and it worked better than the existing products that were out there. And if you're going to let that stay at the bench level, it's really a disservice, we think, to our field. So we were 100% committed to, we got to get this out there.
Oh, you betcha. I understand, definitely. Well, and the other part of the intriguing question here is that, so because of all the different things that you've been involved in putting together in terms of scientifically, products, things along those lines, to date, what would you say is the one product that you've been most proud of that you participated in? I was just curious.
Oh, well, yeah, so we're we're an early stage startup, and we have one product on the market, and that's it. So our product is the Trak Fertility Testing System. This is a consumer device that allows men to measure and track their sperm counts at home. And this has been the sole focus of the company now since we started. So, we've developed a lot of other technologies and patents and different ways, but this is our bread and butter of a product that's now out there available for people to use today.
Right. We're going to get into that, as a matter of fact. And I did know that. Actually, in my research, I see that you're the co-inventor to 18 patents. Does that just blow your mind away? Because I was totally like, oh, my God, I can't even create one thing, let alone two. And here this guy is, like, streamlining ahead of me by leaps and bounds at 18 different patents. So explain to folks a little bit, because I always find this interesting because we don't know anything about you, of course. So is the patent process as arduous as I mean, I've only talked to 2 other people, and they're like, you wouldn't believe how difficult this is to try to get something patented. Is that indeed true? Kind of take us into your world a little bit and explain to us, is it really that complex to try to get something out there on the market these days?
Well, there's 2 different questions. So there's a difference between patenting something and getting something on the market. And, I have colleagues who have hundreds of patents, and that's just the part of the job is when you invent something, you document it, and you file a patent on it I think it's important to realize what a patent is. So a patent is basically a legal document that gives you the authority to prevent someone else from commercializing your idea. It gives you some certain rights in the commercial and private world that otherwise wouldn't exist. And that's very important when you're starting a company and trying to run a business.
Sure.
So a lot of my patents were more academic level of when we were faced with a challenge. For instance, the biodefense and emergency preparedness, required us to invent some new ways of doing things and, new devices, new chips, new ways of routing fluids and analyzing them. Is really still a new field, and there's a lot of room for developing and patenting things. But, I don't know what the percentages are, but the vast majority of patents go nowhere. Companies just patent stuff just in case it one day ever were to become something, they'll have some authority to prevent others from using it. So it's part of the job. We're proud of the patents, but, right now there's only a few that are really applicable to what we care about as a business.
Oh, no, I understand completely. I do. Okay, now, obviously, one of the things that I want to bring up here is you are part of Sandstone Diagnostics. In fact, you're the CEO and one of the founders there. So if you wouldn't mind talking to the folks a bit about what Sandstone Diagnostics does and how long you've been actually together as a company.
Yeah, happy to. And I'll actually correct you first. So I'm not the CEO. Our CEO is actually a phenomenal executive named Karen Drexler. But I'm one of the founders.
Really?
I'm the chief scientific officer.
Okay. Only because I found that. Okay. Let me make a correction on that, only because of the fact that when I was researching you, actually somebody stated that. So I guess that's why somewhere out there you're the CEO of this company, just so you know.
So I used to be the CEO. So I was the CEO up until about a little over a year ago when I took the scientific officer role and now work very closely with Karen on a lot of those aspects. I guess, there's a little bit of a story there where, as I mentioned, this is my first startup, and I come from much more of a technology background, and the company was going through a transition at that point where we were on the cusp of our FDA clearance and about ready to launch a product and growing and maturing to a point where, I realized we could really value from some experienced leadership from someone who's done this before successfully, and Karen has that really a unique track record of success in launching and making successful medical devices for point-of-care testing. And so I've transitioned into a scientific officer role where I really focus these days on the medical and scientific objectives of what we have. We have a consumer product on the market, but we're also on the cusp of shifting the standard of care in men's reproductive health But that's a tough challenge. And so we need the data, we need the studies and the partners out there that can help us prove that, men being able to track and improve their sperm count at home has benefits and advantages over existing options. And so that's where I put a lot of my focus.
Right. Gotcha. I see what you mean. Okay, got it. All right, and then if we want to start talking, obviously, about the product itself. So first of all, Trak is the name of it, as you might have mentioned, which is the first male fertility system, so it can actually track and measure sperm count at home. So obviously, of course, the kind of elephant in the room, so to speak, is obviously nobody seems 100% comfortable, well, at least not in my world anyways, about talking about male fertility and or sperm count. It's always a little awkward or uncomfortable. So I'm curious to ask about that, meaning that are the patients or individuals that you deal with, is there always that small amount of discomfort? Because obviously, of course, I think it's just hard for all of us to talk about just that whole, it's a very private, very personal matter. So how have you taken some of the stigma away and made people more comfortable about using your product?
Yeah, I think it's one of the aspects that we recognize very early on as being, why there's such a need and an opportunity here in this field where men's fertility is very taboo. It's still in the shadows, and that's really a shame because infertility is becoming an enormous problem. That it's common and it's growing. As couples push off pregnancies to later in life and other environmental factors happening, cultural reasons, just the need for infertility services is escalating at a pretty fast clip. But, men are still very underserved when it comes to tackling this problem. Men contribute to half of all cases of infertility, and yet nearly everything in this space is focused on the female partner for different reasons. And so we wanted to get out there and build a solution that helps men get engaged in this process much sooner than they currently are, and not only that, be able to do something about it. Men are, by our nature, solvers and fixers, and we want to do something. And without the tools out there, you'll find men that are going through infertility are really feeling helpless today, and they're isolated, and they don't know what to do, and they're wanting to help, but not sure how to do that. So we wanted to help bring male fertility out of the shadows. You mentioned it. The communication is one of the biggest barriers that, when you're talking about sperm and testicles and semen and stuff like that sends a shrill up most people's spines. It can be difficult to go anywhere. And it's difficult for couples to talk about it, even just between a man and a woman. And that communication barrier can really lead to a lot of problems. So we want to overcome that. We did, some things that have been very successful. We have a website called don'tcookyourballs.com that provides a very comprehensive, very scientific overview. It's a resource. It's a consumer-focused website focused on information and education on this topic. But it's a little lighthearted, as you can tell from the URL. It's intended to be that way, to say, okay, well, let's have a little bit of a laugh. There's some humor in there, some edgy material that can help get over that barrier. And the more people understand, get educated, and learn about this topic, the more successful they're likely to be. So, that's one of the campaigns that's out there. But I think you're starting to see a growing awareness of, just last week, Newsweek had a cover story. The big headline on Newsweek was "What's Killing America's Sperm?" And it's so wonderful and phenomenal to see this growing mainstream awareness that, male fertility is a big problem and needs more attention, because we've been talking about it for a while, but very few have, and it's great to see it finally getting out into the zeitgeist.
Oh, I bet. Well, and my question is, of course, do you have a particular age demographic, meaning that have you noticed through time and experience, are you finding there's a particular, 30 to 40 or 40 to 50? Is there one particular area that seems to be needing this product more often than not?
Well, it varies. We are very encouraged by how many young men are purchasing and using the product. It's for younger men, and even men who aren't even in a relationship yet, who are just curious and wanting to know and starting to think about their future a little bit of, can I be a dad someday, are coming to us. And I think that's incredibly encouraging versus, in the past, this has been something that people never thought about or realized until they were many months or years into unsuccessfully conceiving when they start to raise those questions. So so we see it across the board. It's young men all the way up to older men who are interested in their sperm health for various reasons. It's vasectomy reversals, for example, are becoming much more common as men get older, and so we have a lot of customers in that demographic as well. The other thing I'd mention is that we're incredibly encouraged by just how many men are purchasing the product, period. I think one of our early assumptions was, well, maybe this is a product that's more for women who tend to be the drivers in the fertility space. They're already out there. They're looking for solutions. They're using apps. They're purchasing devices. Maybe women are going to buy this product more than men, but in fact, we see the opposite, that men are very interested. They're getting it. They're realizing the utility of it, and they're purchasing the product, which is great for us to see.
Oh, definitely. So it sounds to me like, and my first assumption, having not talked to you, is that I assume this is just for couples or individuals that can't have a child. So you're saying that it's likely that it can be also utilized for individuals, just males in general, which is nice to hear, because I thought it might be limited just to couples trying to conceive.
Yeah, well, Cindy, you're going to see over the next 5-10 years that sperm are going to be talked about in a lot of different ways. Today sperm are really just kind of confined to fertility and trying to get pregnant, but there's evidence coming out every day that sperm are just an important health parameter, period. Men who have low sperm count are at much higher risk of major diseases like testicular cancer, prostate cancer, cardiovascular disease, diabetes. Men's health is all one connected system, and just the way that you measure blood pressure or cholesterol, men's sperm count is also provides a window into his health, and I think there's growing awareness around that, and certainly a lot of uses outside of just trying to get pregnant. This is men taking care of their overall and more important health.
Well, you betcha. Now, just so I understand this process correctly, because I'm not going to lie to you, I'm scientific stupid, and I'm a smart woman, but science-wise I have no knowledge. So, for instance, let's say somebody's listening today. Is there such a thing, for lack of a better term, like a trial window, meaning if a couple's tried to conceive for a year, 2 years, et cetera, is there such a thing as a breakthrough point where you say to yourself, you know what, I think we need to start utilizing methods such as yours, for instance? Do you know what I mean? Is there some sort of status quo in terms of, we might be needing to look into something?
Well, there kind of are. So there's guidelines that, to be clinically defined as infertile is if you're less than 35 years old, if you've been trying for 12 months or more unsuccessfully with unprotected intercourse. If you're over 35, it's actually 6 months or more because, time is not on your side when you're trying to get pregnant. Women are often doing things early on to, monitoring their ovulation, tracking, and try to optimize time of the month. On average, men today don't get tested until a couple is about 18 months or a year and a half into trying to conceive. And that's a long time, especially when, we like we said, time is not on your side. A year and a half of month after month of being unsuccessful is really devastating and stressful. So we want to come into that early time frame. Even if a couple is just considering trying to start their family, the sooner you can recognize potential issues and do something about it, the better your chances of success. And not only that, men's sperm count is a very dynamic parameter. This is something that's not set in stone. It can go up or down for a variety of reasons, and it's something that men can impact through a little bit better, healthier living and lifestyle. And so the whole purpose of Trak is not to be just a test system. This is a tracking and improvement tool that we want to give men the tools and information that they need to be able to take control of this problem and hopefully boost their sperm production. And when it comes to fertility, it's all a numbers game. So this is about improving your chances of success on a monthly basis and hopefully help that couple start their family.
You betcha. Yeah, because it's interesting because, of course, obviously one of our icons very recently passed away. Obviously, I'm sure you heard Hugh Hefner. And one of the things, or should I say one of the running jokes that I hear men talk about a lot is, oh, we never have to worry because, you know what, we can have babies until we're like 80, 90 years old. And here you come on my show, and now it almost sounds like maybe that's not so much true. Because I think a lot of us women truly believe, you know what I mean? Because we have an expectancy of, we get to late 40s, like I'm late 40s right now, and I'm like, I just know that there's a small chance. I mean, it's still there, but the chances of my getting pregnant at this point are going to be really, really tough. You know what I mean? Whereas, based on what you're telling me, it almost sounds like you guys almost have some kind of a shelf life to some degree as it relates to this.
Yeah, you're right, to some degree. I mean, it's not as stark. The data is pretty clear that the fertility rates decline more steeply with women, but men certainly have a biological clock as well. Not only in the ability to get pregnant, but the risks associated with having children later in life, that there's more evidence of higher risk of birth defects or problems as both partners age. So yeah, there's certainly an aspect of that. What we tend to say is that healthy babies start with healthy parents, and that as couples are trying to get pregnant, taking care of themselves, living a little bit better, improving their overall health and wellness can really go a long ways to not only getting pregnant, but to having a healthy child as well.
Gotcha, I see. Now, before we talk about how you use the system itself, this is a pertinent question I thought that you may be able to address, which is, if there's folks that are listening out there, because I don't know the biological side of things, are there any sort of tips or things that you could mention, meaning that gentlemen can do? Because I know there's obvious obstacles, like, for instance, people talk about, alcohol or drug usage. Things like that can affect things relative to productivity as it relates to sperm and things of that nature. Are there certain things that people should avoid or could avoid that can make a difference in terms of the fertility side of things?
Yeah, there's a lot of things, and I'll name a few. I would first mention that a big part of our product is a mobile app. It's a free download. I would encourage people who are listening to go to the Play Store, download it, and what it's going to do is it's going to walk you through about 120 questions that we've built with some of the top urologists in the space to identify just those things, and we'll go through a bunch of categories and help flag some risk factors that may be causing fertility issues. So general guidance for men is avoiding toxins that can impair sperm production. You mentioned drugs and alcohol, smoking; those things can have a big effect. Actually, weight is one of the biggest risk factors. Obese men are about 80% more likely to have a low sperm count or no sperm count than men of a healthy BMI. So a big thing that we encourage is men to who are in the overweight or obese BMI range is to try to get a little bit healthier. That can really go a long ways. I did my own, when we were developing the product a few years ago, I did my own personal experiment where I was a little overweight at the time, and since I happened to have a sperm tracker on hand, I wanted to put it to the test. So my goal was to lose 17 pounds to get down into the healthy BMI range, and my sperm count nearly doubled. It took me about 4 months, and it shot up significantly, and it made me a believer. So weight is a big one. And then the other one that a lot of people don't think about is heat. Of the sperm making organs are on the outside of a man's body for a reason, that they need to be a little bit cooler than the rest of the body to efficiently produce sperm. So avoiding things like hot tubs and laptops on your lap can really make a big difference. And not only that, if you can actively cool your groin, you can have a pretty dramatic impact as well. And there's a few neat products out there that we like to work with that can help men, apply ice packs where they need it to try to boost their sperm count. And yeah. Sure.
Nice. Now, the system itself, of course, as I understand it, has there's one track, and it includes 4 tests along with a man's guide to reproductive health. So basically, I don't necessarily need you to walk me through the whole thing, but for most guys that are listening out there, is this somewhat of a simplistic system, meaning for actual tracking and measuring it? Is it time-consuming? What's involved with this process?
Yeah, so it's a whole new approach to sperm analysis, and Trak is it's a centrifugal system. So the way it works, we have a device, we call it an engine. It runs on 2 AA batteries and has a little motor in it. And then we have these disposable test cartridges that we call the props for your engine. And so you collect your sample. Again, this is all at home, so you don't have to mail in your sample or anything. You do this privately and immediately at home. Collect your sample, you put a few drops into the prop, and the engine spins it down. It goes for about a 5-minute spin. And what we do is we're using centrifugal force generated by spinning the sample to pull out and isolate and quantify how many sperm are in your sample. Sperm are actually the densest cell in a man's body, so they're pretty heavy, and by spinning them down, we can give you an accurate reading. And then we'll categorize men's sperm count as low, moderate, or optimal for conception. A lot of people don't know what sperm count even is. What do these numbers mean? We see people come to us all the time with a laboratory semen analysis result and reports and saying, these numbers are meaningless, help me understand them. And you can use the app to help understand them as well. So we help guys understand what the results are, and then our biggest message is that, especially for men who are on the low end, that this is common. You're not alone, but there's a lot that you can do, and by using the system in conjunction with a lot of the tips and recommendations, men can have a pretty dramatic impact over time.
Gotcha. Now, I also would assume because it's on an application-type format, they can literally take it to the doctor if necessary, meaning if they're seeing a treating physician, and just take it there and show them results, et cetera, and they'll be able to analyze those and help them understand it as well, I'm gathering.
Yeah, absolutely, and doctors love that. I think most doctors recognize that men aren't getting tested at all early on, so coming in with some sort of insight in something that you've been doing can be really helpful for making some decisions and guiding on next steps. So absolutely.
Wonderful. And I know that you also offer the refill system for individuals who obviously, if they run out of their first pack, et cetera. So again, on an average, because I know it's always on a case-by-case basis, but typically when somebody from start, and let's say, okay, tomorrow you buy the Trak system, is there a typical time frame people should be expecting, meaning don't just buy the first pack and know that you're done? Do you know what I'm trying to say? I'm just trying to give a guideline here in terms of what should people prepare for to some extent.
Yeah, well, we sell the product with 4 tests, and we recommend testing every month or so, and you can kind of time it with your partner's cycle to make sure that you're not interfering in any way if you're trying to get pregnant. And we actually recommend testing a few times initially because kind of establish that baseline is important to seeing changes over time. And then we have the refill pack for people who are continuing in the process and need to see more tests. But a lot of our customers, after they get pregnant, they're on their way to now becoming parents and don't need us anymore. So that's very exciting to see. And every day we get those pregnancies reported is a really rewarding when you're at the company.
That's so cool. Well, yeah, and that's the other thing we want to mention is, of course, too, because we are talking about a science here, do you have a particular success ratio based upon, because I know it's a new product, so obviously you may not be at that point yet, but do you have any approximate idea as to how successful you guys are from somebody getting the system and saying, hey, you know what, we're ending up pregnant? Obviously, that's not reliant upon Trak alone, but I'm just curious.
Well, we're also very... privacy and anonymity is very important for us too. So a lot of our customers keep us at arm's length for a good reason, and we're happy about that. But when we get product reviews in and people who call us up and tell us that they're pregnant and are just grateful and excited to share that, we get very excited.
Gotcha. Now, of course, obviously, we all want to believe that. I want to throw this out there just because of the fact that I assume, because you're the very first male fertility system, I want to believe that it's a perfect product, but just out of curiosity, do you guys have a safeguard for like a false positive? Because like sometimes you do a pregnancy test, like I've done that before, where all of a sudden it says positive, but in reality it's not. Are there any safeguards for you to prevent against like having a number or having a measurement show up that's not 100% accurate? Do you know what I'm saying? Because I know that happens with the female side of things sometimes.
It does. I mean, so it's important to know that Trak is a Class 2 medical device that's been cleared by the United States FDA.
Right.
And I mention that because we had to do really pretty extensive validation trials to prove, A, that Trak is accurate compared to what you'd get in a standard laboratory, and B, that men can use this and understand and interpret it at home, especially men who haven't otherwise been trained or have any exposure to the product. And so it's very accurate. It's very easy to use. The chances of getting an inaccurate result are low. And then I would also mention that, again, male fertility and sperm count isn't the same as a pregnancy test. This is not a yes or no condition where with pregnancy you can say, well, you're pregnant or not, and so the risks of a false negative obviously are much higher. But with us, it's here's where you are and here's where you want to go. So that allows some differences in that respect.
Very cool. I know that your product's been featured both in Men's Health as well as Newsweek, which is absolutely awesome. And it sounds like it's usually any product that's gone through the FDA, folks, if you've ever heard this before, they're very strenuous in terms of picking something apart, left, right, and sideways. I've heard this numerous amounts of times. The other two things I want to mention that you offer, and this is relative to the website, folks, I happen to find on there. I'm curious, do you, because I know you have a blog on your website. Now, is that something that you contribute to, or do you guys have different contributors at times, or how do you work that out? Because I think that's very helpful and informative for folks when they go to try to learn new things on the site.
Yeah, it's both. So we have a lot of experts, urologists, and academics who contribute to the blog. I write a lot of it. In fact, just before I called in here, I was working on an upcoming blog post, and
cool.
Yeah, it is very important. Again, the biggest emphasis here is that we're building a new product category. This is something that people don't really know about, and spreading the awareness, providing education, helping people realize how prevalent of a problem this is, and what they can do about it is very important for us. So we put a lot of time and effort into expanding those resources, and we hope people find it helpful.
Oh, without a doubt, definitely. The other thing I want to mention is, of course, you offer the Trak Live via your website. I also noticed that you haven't done one of those, and I was bummed. I'm like, he hasn't done one of these, and so I didn't know if that was specific to particular doctors, because, of course, you've had doctors, professors, things like that. So please explain to the folks what the Trak Live episodes are.
Oh, well, yeah, you can find them on our website, trakfertility.com. So actually, I do all those. They're what we do it's a Facebook live chat. So we bring on different experts, different personalities in the field of male reproduction, and we answer Facebook questions. And they're half hour long or so, and people can write in on different topics. And again, we find being out there that people generally have not that great of an understanding of this topic, and I think our education system, it might be failing us a little bit, to be honest, with some of the questions that we get. When we launched at the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas, I can't tell you how many guys came up to me and asked, so I pee in this cup, and I'd have to explain, like, well, no, there's no sperm in your urine. Here's how this system works. And I'm thinking, if this is really our general understanding of men's reproductive health, we have a long ways to go, and I think it speaks more to the importance of building education and awareness. So.
Oh, my goodness. Well, and the other thing, too, is obviously the more you know, the more of a benefit it is to everyone involved, because clearly this is something that's very serious subject matter for a lot of families out there. And so knowledge is power in a lot of particular regards as it relates to this. The other thing I don't want to forget to mention is if there's people listening in, because I have 20 different states that listen in, do you guys travel? Because I know there's conferences that go on all the time. Can people come out and physically meet you, talk to you, or talk to your representatives about the product itself? Do you ever do the actual live demos, promos, things like that?
We do a little bit of that. Our traveling and conferences are a little bit more focused at the medical and scientific level these days, but we'll be growing, of course, as we expand and get our marketing out. We're still very early, so a lot of our information and marketing and advertising is done online, which has been very successful for us. But we'll be growing. I would encourage people to write in, though. We're a small team. We're very scrappy. We're very resourceful, and we love to hear from people. So if you go to trakfertility.com, go to our Facebook page, you just look up Trak Fertility, and write in a comment. We'll definitely reach out to you. And again, the conversations and the awareness and the word of mouth are very important for us. So don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions.
That's very cool. And I don't want to forget to mention the obvious, which is this. At the present time, the cost itself is $199 for the actual Trak testing system itself, and that can be ordered via the website. And the 2-pack refill kit is $49.99. Is that correct? I just want to make sure you haven't changed the prices. Status quo.
No, that's right. And the Trak system comes with four tests. Yep.
Oh, awesome. That's right. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to read all the different places where folks can actually find you. So I'll read everything off. Let me know if I've forgotten anything when I'm done.
Sure.
As we mentioned, the actual product itself is called Trak. There's a website for it, which is Trak, and that's spelled Trak, trakfertility.com. The company that we mentioned that Greg is affiliated with is Sandstone Diagnostics.com, so you can see a background on what the company does, etc. There's a Facebook page, which is Trak HQ. The Instagram is Trak Fertility. The app that we mentioned can either be found on either Google Play or iTunes, Amazon, LinkedIn. They're also on YouTube. Have I forgotten anything?
Boy, I don't know. I hope not. Yeah, that was a lot. Thank you.
Well, it is, because we want people to, obviously I want to make sure that people have at least 5, 6 different ways to be able to find you, and it's important that they understand your background as well as the current product itself. And folks, obviously that's where you can find the refill kit, you can find the system itself. It explains to you all those things, the blog that we talked about as well as the Trak Live episodes. Those are important. Oh, and the other thing I don't want to forget to ask about is, how cool is this? You're named 40 under 40. How surreal is that feeling? Because I can't even get named 1 out of 5,000. And he's like, I was named 40 under 40. How cool is that, though? Like, seriously, is that like a huge honor? Because I'm like, that's got to be way cool. Diablo Magazine, by the way.
It was fun. It was a Bay Area magazine that was kind enough to recognize me. Yeah, it was neat. It was fun, and I don't know. Recognitions like that are nice, but we're much more focused on building the business and making this a successful product that continues to help people. But thanks for mentioning that.
Oh, no, without a doubt. I mean, that's my job. I'm a journalist, so we do those things. Now, the last 2 things I want to mention to you is, first of all, I have to say to Andrea Pass, this is another wonderful client. Oh, my God, she brings me some of the best people in the whole wide world. If anybody is listening in, Andrea Pass, one of the top tier publicist people that I deal with. Not only is she a super sweetheart in real life of the conversations we've had, we haven't met in person as of yet, but she's just top notch as it relates to her clients, i.e., case in point, Greg Sommer, another wonderful client. So Andrea, from me to you, marketingmavenpr.com. Anybody looking for anything, contact Andrea. Thank you so much for another wonderful client on my show today. Now, Greg, I want to remind you, within about 2 hours or so, this episode becomes archived. So what I'll do is I'll send the link for not only the Blog Talk Radio, but we automatically upload all of these onto YouTube as well. So I have a full YouTube channel where people can go in and listen to it. Hopefully all 62,000 listeners, I'm not sure if they're all listening right now because not everyone's off, but hopefully they did. I honestly have to thank you for 2 reasons. First of all, because of the fact I'm sure you never hear this enough, because the guys that are the scientists in those small little rooms developing things, I don't think you ever get to hear enough how appreciated or admired that we feel for you, meaning that we have a huge amount of appreciation and admiration for the talent that you possess, for all of the help and the nurturing that you bring along. I mean, this is huge. This is fundamentally impacting thousands of households all over the place because you're bringing life, and that's amazing. So in case anyone hasn't reminded you lately, I think it's pretty kick-ass, and it's very cool, and you should be thanked on a regular basis because this is a labor of love, truly. And I'm sure I don't need to tell you that, but I'm sure you don't hear it enough. And second of all, anytime you want to come back and talk, like, not science geeky stuff or new product or anything, I would be more than delighted to have you back on the show. I think it was hopefully it was a wonderful experience for you. And I didn't even blush that much. I was so nervous. I'm like, he's my first sex guy. That didn't sound great. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm the sex guy on the show. This is so blah. I only blushed like once or twice. It's that whole sperm thing. I'm telling you, it's the word, it's the thing. Well, you know, it's your business, but no. Yeah, so definitely. Within 2 hours, I'll send us off to you. I am wishing you tons and tons of success. Like I said, don't be a stranger. Feel free to come back at any point in time. We would love to have you.
Oh, thanks so much. I'd love to come back. And no, this was fun.
Oh,
you have a great show, and I wish you so much success.
You.
This is very cool.
Oh,
thanks for featuring.
I appreciate that. Anytime at all. Feel free to come back. Like I said, hopefully we'll get a chance to meet in person. I'd love to be able to see the laboratory because, like I said, I'm science stupid. So, like, I could just walk through and, like, learn a little something about anything. I'd be, like, totally great. So I'll let you know when I'm in the area, and you have a great weekend. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks. You as well. Thanks, Cindy.
All right. Bye-bye. tell me he wasn't like fabulous, right? It's not very often that I get an opportunity to do scientists on the show, but like I said, now I feel like maybe 5% smarter, and I can talk about sperm count and fertility without blushing. Well, not nearly as much. Again, one more time, I want to remind everybody the name of the product itself is called Trak. It's Trak System, actually, which is spelled Trak. Here we go again with the website. It's trakfertility.com. Company is actually Sandstone Diagnostics.com. The Twitter handle is @TrakHQ. Facebook page, same name, TrakHQ. Instagram, Trak Fertility. The application itself that you can get for the Trak system is either available on Google Play or iTunes or Amazon. He is also on LinkedIn, which meaning Greg Sommer himself is on LinkedIn, and some of his past interviews have been on YouTube. One more huge shout out to Andrea Pass at marketingmavenpr.com. Can't thank you enough. Another wonderful client who hopefully is as satisfied with today as I was. And lastly, thank you so very much to my listening audience this week. I know that I've been on quite a bit, and get used to me a lot more because of the upcoming weeks at the film festival. I'm going to be presenting at least 4 of my directors, I think, if not 5, on the upcoming show. Deborah Markowitz, Peter Dorton. We're having Chad McCord. We're also having who's the other one? Eric Hackler, I believe is how you pronounce it. All be coming on the show talking about their films in anticipation for Art is Alive Film Festival. Don't want to forget to remind everybody that's my pet project these days, New York City, October 26th to the 28th. Please make it a point to share. Please make it a point to get your tickets and attend. Thanks, everybody, for making another great week and listening in. I'll be back on air, and that will be, again, Monday reminder to all, Michelle Glasser, 1 p.m. Central Standard Time Monday. You guys have a wonderful weekend. I look forward to talking to you next week. Take care.